All right, man, peace. So, brothers, this is going to be another entry into the series, Don't Have Children Too Young, Black Men. And this is going to be a concept, a platform, a talking point that I'm always going to harp on because it's extremely important that the so-called black man understand that as soon as you put your sperm inside of another woman, she has a certain amount of control over your life. Therefore, she can steer your life in the direction that she decides to steer it in based on her whims, based on her preference. So don't be that person 22, 23 years old talking about my baby mom's this and my baby mom's that. No, nigga, you decided to plant a seed up in that woman and now your life has been compromised. Please grasp this. And from there you have baby mama drama. You have the potentiality that the child is not yours. Your options have now been curtailed. You may have wanted to become something and that might not ever happen because of the responsibilities that you now have here on the earth. Once you have a child, your child becomes the number one responsibility in your life above yourself, above your woman. So everything that you do is predicated on the sustenance and the potential prominence, the advancement of your child. That's why it's important that brothers do not impregnate a woman until they're old enough to actually have something to teach the child, until they have stable income coming in. That's going to stop a lot of the stress and the problems that cats have. You're so busy stressing out over the child and over the baby mama, you can't be the best version of yourself because you have to stay at a dead-end job just to keep the bills paid. That makes you miserable. That brings stress to the household. That makes you a lesser father to your child because now how are you going to tell your child to become something that you did not have the vision, the foresight, or the stick-to-itiveness to become, the discipline to become? So there's always a trickle down. Then you go into a job where you're getting yelled at by some fucking boss who might be dumber than you. And you're frustrated, you're taking that out on your woman. You're supposed to be the boss of your household. How are you going to do that when you always have to listen to a boss at some job somewhere? I'm sure that certain people will say, well, I have a job, I have a boss, but I'm still the boss of my household. Well, you could be a better boss if you're a boss in every aspect of your life. That's why I said that brothers should not be working in corporate America. But just to get back to the point of the video, we're going to see here over the course of this segment that this brother here made some very key mistakes that could have turned out worse had it not been for the fact that at the very least he was intelligent enough to decide to get a paternity test utilized on this show. Let's see what happens. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Plaintiff Nishan Lockett says he married the defendant when they were teenagers because she was pregnant with his child.
Now, brothers, you hear that? You're getting married at 16, 17 years old. There's going to be nothing but resentment. There's no way in the world that the woman is just going to sample your penis for the rest of your lives from 17 years old until your deaths. So there's going to be all type of relationship drama and trauma because she's going to be checking for other men and you're most likely going to be checking for other women. You're 17 years old. This is not the society to be trying to lock down some chick in your late teens. If it happens, phenomenal, great. You might meet the love of your life at 15 and you guys get married at 18 and have some kids. You got 3 kids by the time you're both 25. If that works for you, great. But for the average person, that shit is not going to work.
However, they ended up getting a divorce because his ex was unfaithful.
No shit.
DNA test proved Nishan wasn't the father of their oldest child. Nishan suing his ex-wife for an overpayment of child support. Defendant Emma Lockett claims Nishan was abusive, and she divorced him after he was convicted twice for beating her.
Yes, he was beating the shit out of her because he was frustrated at his inability to control the situation. Not only the relationship, but also the knowledge. What was tormenting him was the knowledge that had he not impregnated her at that young of an age, he would not be going through that stress. And also he'd be free to do him as well. We're going to see over the course of this series, once again, that this woman believes that she's smarter than the man. She believes that she's more intelligent. And this is a very, very prevalent component within the toxic, dynamic between so-called black men and so-called black women in this society. The liberal black woman believes that she's more intelligent than so-called black men. Every black man. They always believe that they're smarter.
Says Nishan never paid child support for the child he didn't father, and she's countersuing him for pain and suffering.
Start with you. I met the defendant in early 92. I was 17 at the time, and we dated briefly. We got back together maybe 2 months after that. At that time, she told me she was pregnant, and like I said, I was 17, and I wasn't really ready for that. But
the first thing that you should have done was go get a paternity test. The very first thing, especially at that age, you have to cover all your bases. I have family members who thought that they were the father of the child all the way until the child was born, and went and got a paternity test and come to find out that they were not the dad.
People saying we need to get married, and I'm like, wow, I don't really want to do that, but I didn't really want to have my kid out there without a father, so I married her. Like I said, 17 years old, that's a big responsibility. She also had a...
No, that's not a big responsibility at 17. That's an impossible responsibility. There's nowhere in the world that you can be a parent at 17 years old. Not possible. I mean, other than changing diapers and, feeding the baby formula, sure. Bathing the child, yeah. But the everyday aspects of being a parent, there's no way. You're still a damn child. You don't know shit about life. You don't really know anything about life for real until you're in your early 30s. In your 20s, you think that you know about life. But it's not until you're in your early to mid 30s that you're sure that you know what this life is about, because things start to slow down. Like a great athlete, when they're in the zone, they say everything slowed down around me. That's how life is like once you get into your early to mid 30s.
3-year-old, so I'm a stepfather and a father. So we get married, and it's just downhill from there. I mean, she.
What year was that?
This was in '92.
Because she didn't want to be with you. That's why everything went downhill once you guys got married. Because once again, when you impregnate a woman and or sign that contract with her, that gives her almost supreme power over your life.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What happens?
We're arguing all the time. She's partying all the time. Not really want to be a mother or a wife.
That's not true, Your Honor.
I'm just trying to maintain.
All of you are ready for parenting, right? You're teenagers,
right?
I didn't want to have a child. He was the one pursuing the fact of us.
You already had one, right?
Yes,
okay.
and that was the reason I didn't want to have another one. It was too hard trying to make it through high school.
But both of you were teenagers. You're right. You weren't ready for any of that.
So she comes at me saying need to get married. She that was her 100%.
Which is strange. If she didn't want to have a child, why wouldn't she just push for an abortion? For her to push for them to be married, I have to wonder how that conversation went. Was it him saying, no, we're going to have this baby, and then she said, okay, but if we're going to have it, we have to get married? Because I don't want to have two separate baby daddies without a quote-unquote husband or father in the house. I have to know what was the exact transcript on that?
It happens. We're not going to rehash who decided to do it 15 years later. Go ahead.
Okay, so into the marriage, like I said, we start arguing, we're fighting all the time. I leave.
Because they probably never lived together. Brothers, I don't give a shit what a woman says, because a lot of them have a lot of low schemes when it comes to them not really being able to find out who they are as people until you give them that ring. You better live with a woman. If you're even thinking about quote-unquote marrying her, that's your business. If you want to sign that contract with the woman, that's your business. But you better live with her for a very long period of time before you make that next step, because those are two different people. The person that you're living with as opposed to the person that you're dating, i.e. fucking and going to the movies with, those are two different people. And you have to know who the person is who's living with you before you know who you're actually dealing with. Because that person that you just fucking and going to the movies and out to eat with, that's a whole other person than the person who's tired of walking past you in the hallway every day, or the person who's tired of waiting for you to come out the bathroom. Two different people.
Brief separations because it gets just too hectic in the house, and she just started cheating on me. She didn't want to be faithful.
We had 3 kids in a 2-year period of time. We got a divorce because he was extremely abusive.
So you had 3 kids with him in 2 years, and you had another child from a previous relationship, but supposedly parenting was too hard. And you know what, brother? I'm not even going to blame her. I don't blame her. And I don't even really blame the plaintiff. I blame whoever the father of the plaintiff is. Because the father of the plaintiff did not instruct him properly. And many people out there will say, well, you can't say that because you have parents who instruct their children and the child still does whatever the child feels like doing. That's all well and good. But I don't, from what I gather from what the plaintiff is saying, he does not strike me, and how he's saying it, he does not strike me as someone who was instructed Many times children who go off on their own when it comes to decision making, they'll say, well, you know what? My mother or my father told me not to do this. I did it anyway. So now I have to deal with the repercussions of my bad decisions. I'm not getting any of that from him. And there are so many brothers out there who have become the victims of a lack of guidance.
Divorce.
In 95.
All right,
the end
very
of 95.
good. Glad you did. What do you want to say about the marriage and the relationship?
First of all, I filed for the divorce on abuse. Okay, I was tortured through the full duration of our marriage.
Tortured how?
Meaning I was pregnant for the whole time from November of 92.
Pregnant was torture to you?
Yeah, what the fuck is she talking about? She was tortured. Like tortured as in what? When the previous baby was delivered, he brought you home and that night strapped you down to the bed and said you're going to take these pregnancy pumps and get pregnant again? Is that what, like, what she mean tortured?
Well, because I was thrown down a flight of stairs, I was kicked in the stomach, I was hit with broom handles. I have copies of police reports that I've, filed charges against him on several different occasions.
What happened with those charges?
You know, brothers, when I hear allegations like that, where the other person said that's completely untrue, that confirms that both parties are most likely mentally unstable. Because for there to be that level of cognitive dissonance to where one person remembers something a particular way and the other person completely denies any aspect of that, that tells me that their relationship was totally clouded by emotions. And that's when demons jump in. Whenever you're being led by your emotions, that's when demons jump in.
One time he had to do community service. Okay. Another time
so he was convicted?
Yes.
How many times?
I believe on 2 different occasions.
Sir, is that true?
No, it's not.
Never.
No.
Never convicted.
I have copy of the prison.
Well, it depends. What do you mean by convicted? What's your definition?
That's a very simple question. Were you ever convicted of beating your wife?
Beat in what way? Like when you say beat, like with a capital B?
Your Honor.
Gotcha. What you
You know a nigga guilty when he try to explain some shit to a yes or no answer. Did you wipe your ass after you took a shit? Yes or no? Well, here's the thing. I had to rewind this back just so that we could hear what the brother said again.
Stomach, I was hit with broom handles. I have copies of police reports that I've, filed charges against him on several different occasions.
What happened with those charges?
One time he had to do community service. Okay. Another time
so he was convicted?
Yes.
How many times?
I believe on 2 different occasions.
Sir, is that true?
No, it's not.
Never.
No.
Never convicted.
I have copy of the prison report.
That's a very simple question. Were you ever convicted of beating your wife?
In 93, Your Honor.
Gotcha.
In 93, we were walking down some steps. And strangely enough, I was too close to the bitch. My hand was in her back. She started tumbling. I don't know what happened.
You got, man. Let's move on to what you're suing for today. You're suing her for child support today. How so?
Because in 96, when the divorce was final, she put the kids up in the children's home. And me and my mother went and got custody of the kids, and we took care of them.
Why did she say she was doing that?
Well, she said she didn't want the kids.
And so that's not true.
She put the 3 in the children's home?
Yeah, she put all 3 of the kids in the children's home.
Is
that true?
No, I have documentation from the courts that once we filed for divorce, I was in no physical or mental condition to take care of 3 kids in diapers.
So you put them in the home?
All that shit is just an excuse for I want to head back out there to the club, and I don't want anything that reminds me of this nigga. That's the reason why she did it. I want no connection to this nigga whatsoever. I have the other baby daddy that I can ship the oldest child back off to. I want to head back out to these streets, and I want all types of strange dicks running up in between these walls. That's the translation there.
No, I allowed them to go and stay with his mother, and I have court
They were
documents.
never in a home?
Never.
Okay.
That's not true.
You
have evidence that they were in a home?
Well, they weren't in the home. She went to put them in the home, and my kid, and she put them in there. We immediately got them out of there.
So the answer is she did put them in a children's home.
Yes.
She denies it totally.
Right.
And I have court documents.
You deny it totally.
Totally.
Now you have.
You see how much cognitive dissonance is at play here? That's how you know the level of toxicity of this relationship, and that's why, once again, brothers should not be trying to get serious with these chicks, and you're just in high school. Because the you know, the concept of reality is so disparate between men and women a lot of times. And then in addition to that, they were both adolescents.
Evidence that she did?
I have evidence that they live with me and my mother.
No, the children's home.
Okay, no,
because somebody keeps lying, and I got to see.
Absolutely, because the stories are way too disparate.
Liar is today. So let's move on to why you're suing her about overpayment and child support.
And you could tell Mathis can sense that the defendant is off as hell, but the plaintiff is so inept in presenting his case that he can't side with him yet.
You removed the children from this home that she denies they were ever in. They stayed with you and your mother, and then what?
Okay, they stayed with me and my mother for a year. I moved out in 97, Your Honor, with the kids. I'm taking care of the kids. And then in 99, she approaches me. Now, during that time, she's not coming by giving us any support at all. She comes to me and she says, well, I want to get back in the kids' life. So I agree to that.
What does that mean?
She gets custody of the 3 kids in 99. Okay, so immediately after that, she goes and gets child support, and like I said, she wasn't paying me anything when I had them.
Got you. But you paid her when she got them.
So I paid them. So a year into paying, people are telling me, well, when y'all was married, man, she was cheating on you, and those kids might not even be yours.
Absolutely. You see this, brothers? This is why I made these videos. The important thing is to try to stop the so-called black man from getting caught up in these situations that could result in death or a murder. There are brothers out here who are in penitentiaries because they found out that their woman who they thought loved them and who they thought they loved at the time was out there fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry. You grasp that? The woman looked dead in his face and told him that these were your kids, told the judge that she was pregnant 3 times in 2 years, and come to find out one of the pregnancies is not even from him.
So I couldn't afford to get DNA tests on all 3 kids, so I got the DNA test on 1, and it was proven not to be my child. And I have that.
Okay,
yeah, you got a whole lot to say.
I got a whole lot to say. I sure do. Okay.
Your Honor.
I allowed the kids to go and stay with him and his mom because of the abuse. Okay.
You allowed the kids to go and stay with him and his mom because of the abuse. That's strange. So he was abusing you, and to counter the abuse that you felt from him, you said, let me go allow the kids to live with an abuser. This woman is accustomed to arguing with the plaintiff, and because she believes that she's smarter than the plaintiff, she also believes that she can, pull the wool over the eyes of the judge, because most likely she believes that she's smarter than the judge too. That's a very huge problem amongst the liberal black women. They think that they're smarter than all so-called black men.
Paid him child support for the time, and I have court documents showing that I paid him child support for the full time that he had.
You're not being sued for that. Remember what you're being sued for.
Right.
You're being sued for charging him child support on a child that wasn't his that you had while you were married.
Okay.
Mathis said, I could speak fast too, bitch.
Not pay child support for a child that was not his. Okay.
Okay. You have evidence that you did.
I got a copy of the withholding from my job.
And that was for the 2 children. I have court documents also showing that he did not.
Let's see it. And
I got a termination order, so how can
let's see the termination order.
About time you got your shit together, brother.
So if I wasn't paying, how am I turning?
What's the child in question? Well, it's 3 children, right?
Yeah, it was Sierra that was in question. And here's a copy.
How did he get a termination letter if he never paid, man?
Here's a copy of the DNA test too.
Was they set a specific order of $522 for 3 children.
Right, and that included the one that wasn't his, right?
Correct, because
so he did pay child support on all 3. You're a liar. You're the big liar. That's been clear. Once I heard that you had a baby by another man while you were married, I should have known who the big liar was. Man, don't waste my time anymore. $5,000 for the plaintiff. Your claim is dismissed. Have a good day.
Hey, yo, Mathis was waiting to do that for the whole segment. It was just like, I finally got the proof that I need to condemn this bitch. He probably had gotten into an argument with his wife that morning or something, because he was jonesing to get on the defendant. But the brother finally presented the documentation that he needed to win the case. And the defendant is so stupid. She's trying to prove that he did not pay an inordinate amount of child support because it was like a group package. But it's obvious that it was, whatever number was calculated by the court for him to pay, it was based on 3 children as opposed to 2. So she does owe him some type of child support reimbursement.
We don't get along, we never have. I just can't wait till my 2 kids get 18 years old and I ain't got to deal with her ever again.
I don't have any correspondence with him because he isn't intelligent enough to have a civil conversation, and it doesn't hurt anyone but the children, but he doesn't care.
So, brothers, I hope that you heard that. She said that he's not intelligent enough to want to converse with her. She believes that she's smarter than him, and she just might be right. You never know. A lot of these so-called young black men do not have their brains cultivated appropriately to be able to interact with the woman to quote-unquote earn her respect. The woman is constantly in search of some level of altercation or confrontation to reinforce within her mind that the person that she's with actually has something to provide for her, whether it be mentally, financially, sexually, or what have you. So you have to be ready for that type of stuff. But just to get back to the point, in order for brothers to be prepared for these quote-unquote relationships, just my view of it, you have to take your time and don't rush into things too quickly, especially in light of the fact that the vast majority of females today are not raised to be wives. They're raised to be some type of competition or an antagonist for you. Of quote-unquote competition or an alleged antagonist to you. That's how they're raised. And if you're not aware of it, you become like this cat right here, wasting years and money on a child that is not even his. So peace.